Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 493 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, the main man himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. We're going to dive straight into the review part of the show then. Last Friday, March the 28th. This year is just flying by, man. March the 28th, like I say, last Friday at the Planet Ice in Cheshire, United Kingdom. This one was live on DAZN. I said on last week's show it was an extremely poor card. I just wasn't excited for it at all from Matchroom. A really, really poor, low-level card, really. Two fights to mention. I actually didn't watch them at all. I saw the stoppage in the main event, which I think it was the main event. I'll go to it straight away anyway. Cameron Vong, now 8-0, a TKO for him in the 7th against Jordan Flynn, who loses his O. He's now 11-1 with a draw. Like I say, Flynn down in the 3rd round and TKO'd in the 7th. That one was for the vacant WBO European lightweight title. By all accounts, Flynn had a really good start to the fight, but obviously got dropped in the 3rd, and Vong ended up taking over and getting that stoppage. So good win for him. I expected this, in all honesty. I don't know if I was sure that Vong would get the stoppage, but I felt that he would be the comfortable winner. Also on the card, Pat Brown, the Olympian, moves to 1-0, a successful pro debut. He got the 4th round TKO against Federico Grandoni, now 7-5 with 2 draws. Swiftly moving on to the Polyforum Benito Juarez in Cancun, Mexico. Over here we had, again, this one was live on DAZN on the Saturday. We had Yokasta Valle move to 33-3. In the other corner, Marlon Esparza, 15-3. A split decision win over 10-2s there for Yokasta Valle. Yokasta Valle moved up, I think it was 2 weight divisions or 3. I think it was 2 weight divisions. Moved up to flyweight to box Marlon Esparza, who was the much bigger girl. It's funny with Marlon Esparza because she's a flyweight. She's probably, about 5'3" in stature, something like that. Yet she never looks in great shape. It's a weird one. She almost looks chubby, which is so strange to say about a girl that's like less than half my body weight, but she's not like ripped up or anything like that. She's always got a little bit of a belly on her, and I expected Yokasta Valle to be very, very much the better skilled fighter, but it was just a case of, was the size going to be too much of a jump for Yokasta Valle? It wasn't in the end. It was a competitive fight. I think the size of Esparza made it that way, but for me, Yokasta Valle was the rightful winner. Good win for her. Also on the card, Oscar Collazo defending his WBO minimum weight world title, a 5th round KO for him, a body shot stoppage in the end over Edwin Cano Hernandez, now 13-3 with a draw. Oscar Collazo, like I say, defending that title. Successful defense. He's now the perfect 12-0. And then the main event, William Zepeda, now 33-0. Another close fight. According to the scorecards, a majority decision over 12 rounds against Tevin Farmer in their rematch. Farmer now 33-8 with a draw. That one for the WBC interim lightweight world title. I'm going to come to you, Eddie, in a moment. I did see bits of this fight. Obviously, it was in some ways similar to the first fight, where obviously it's no surprise really, but Zepeda's, he's the aggressor. He's throwing punches in bunches, and all of the shots of, a big shots. He's loading up with everything. And Tevin Farmer, picked his moments. He was obviously very cute with it, like he was in the first fight, and he managed to rack up a bunch of rounds yet again. There was an injury to Farmer's hand early on in the fight. I'm not sure if there's been an update after the fight on what the exact injury was. I think it could have been a broken hand or something, but obviously he carried on. He showed his balls once again, and he put in a good performance, all things considered. And he did actually let go of the injured hand a few times. And I tell you what, I love the way, and I'm sure you will as well, Eddie, because I know that you respect a fighter who carries on fighting with an injury that hampers them clearly, which you've done. So I know you've got a soft spot for guys that do that. And Tevin Farmer, I know you would have loved those uppercuts he was picking off Zepeda with. He was lighting him up with these uppercuts. It's just a shame that Farmer's not more of a puncher. But all things considered, a good performance from Tevin Farmer. Just a shame once again that he wasn't able to get the W here. You wonder what would have happened maybe if he would have had two 100% perfect hands in the fight. He did very well, for a fighter predominantly boxing with one hand. But Zepeda won the fight. I think it was clear to see that he won his rounds big. There were times where he did hurt Tevin Farmer. Farmer is such a tough guy, and again, I still want to just reiterate, I really like him up at lightweight. I think it's a much better division for him, but he's come up against a very good fighter twice now. He's come up short both times, but given a good display in both losing efforts, it's just a shame for him. I would have liked to have seen him pick up a win in one of these fights, but it wasn't to be for him, and bad luck with the injury. I know that you saw it as well, Eddie. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Tevin. He's and you know what? I don't know if I said this before, but I really didn't see him much before the first fight, and I've known him. We've went out. We've talked before many times, and I've seen him, do things in the gym, but I never really had a chance to really sit down at length and watch fights of his. And he really impressed me with this first fight, but then I realized that's his style. So then when I go back and I look at other fights, and I'm like, damn, I like this guy's game. Like, beyond just, me knowing him and he's a cool dude, even if I didn't know him, I would still be like, damn, I'm kind of a fan of his. The skill level kind of reminds me of a bite size like James Toney, with a little bit, a few differences, but really, really fantastic looking fighter. You know what I mean? Obviously, like you said, Joe, the fact that he hurt his hand or his elbow or whatever, initially I thought it was his elbow, but his hand, and to continue to carry on, not only carry on the fight, but still throw it and use it to actually, put, not only say, I don't want to say hurt for sure, but at least, get the respect of, his opponent. So it was a good performance in the face of, pain and just, him not being at his full strength, but still displaying, not only the heart of a fighter, but the skill of a fighter as well, of a well-trained fighter. So, man, it was nice to see, but Zepeda is just such a busy, aggressive, no nonsense kind of guy. If you have one hand, even if you could throw it, but it's not the same and you can't quite get totally the amount of respect you need, he's going to be on your heels. There's no chance that you're going to have to get a break to breathe. And, at different times you would see Tevin like extending his arms, trying to like hold him away, or, try to clinch at times to continue to stem the tide of that pressure that he was bringing. And it's like, damn, it's incredible to watch that pace unfold, and even more incredible to me to see Tevin deal with it, even with a broken hand or a damaged hand, and still give a good account of himself to the degree of getting a majority decision for Zepeda. I honestly, as I was watching, I was like, damn, you know, I would think he would have had to do a bit more, punch a bit more to get a decision close like that. But the judges were obviously pretty, well schooled it and seeing, the things that aren't as obvious. You know what I mean? When you think of watching boxing and seeing judging, a lot of times you'll see, like I've even heard judges say that they try to count punches and see who's throwing more. So when you hear things like that, that just shows a lack of education of what the criteria of boxing is. So to see that the decision was actually a majority decision and it's still a close decision in general shows the intelligence of the judges. And I'm not saying that they have it all perfect, but they still gave credit for some of the good work that Tevin was doing throughout the fight. And like you said, it's unfortunate that he didn't get the decision, at least in one of these fights, but he gave a great account of himself. So if your stock can go up in a loss, which it can, that's, that he has that benefit because most people are going to want to see him again. And obviously you're going to want to see Zepeda because he's just an all action type of fighter. But yeah, great skills too. It's an all around good fight. I'm glad I had a chance to watch it.
And moving on, we're going to move now to the next card that went down. It was live on ESPN and Sky Sports in the UK. It went down at the Fontainebleau, Las Vegas in Nevada, USA. On the undercard, we had Emiliano Vargas move to 13-0, a TKO for him in the second against Giovanni Gonzalez, now 20-8 with 2 draws. Tiger Johnson moved to 15-0, a TKO for him in the fifth against Kendo Castaneda, who's now 21-9. Good win there for Tiger. Also on the card, we had Bruce Carrington move to 15-0, a TKO for him in the third against Enrique Vivas, now 23-4. Vivas down in the second, and like I say, TKO'd in the third there for the NABF and WBO Intercontinental Featherweight titles. Also on the card, we had Brian Norman Jr. move to 27-0, a TKO for him in the third against Derek Cuevas, now 27-2 with a draw. That one for the WBO welterweight world title. Brian Norman Jr. looked really good. Yeah, I have to give him his credit here. He looked really good, looked really heavy-handed from the off. Really, it was a fun 3 rounds because they kind of went for it a little bit, and you could see obviously Cuevas tried to roll the dice early on, but he started to feel those shots and he started to wear them shots of Norman, and Norman just kept going. And I think it probably came to an end sooner than he thought it was going to. It's a good win there for him, really, and he'll move on. I think he wants the big fights, he wants the bigger names at welterweight, and hopefully we see him in with those guys because there's no short amount of names at the weight. There's a lot of guys that that are big names at welterweight. It's just the way the division is. And also on the card, we have to mention it, Michaela Mayer, now 21-2, a unanimous decision against Sandy Ryan of the UK, now 20. I don't know where I'm getting the 20 from. She's now 7-3 with a draw. That one for Mayer's WBO welterweight world title, a successful defense for her over 10-2s. Really good fight. I felt that it was a close fight, even though Mayer obviously got the scorecards very wide. 7-3 twice and 8-2. I think the 8-2 one was a bit of a disgrace. I felt it was a close fight, very competitive. I felt that Sandy Ryan was a little bit caught between styles. She didn't know if she wanted to be a counterpuncher or the aggressor. At one point she turned southpaw and she actually had a lot of success, and then after the round ended she didn't go back to southpaw at all for the rest of the fight, which I thought was really weird. Sometimes as well, Sandy would be standing tall, keeping her head on the line, lacking head movement and being caught with eye-catching combinations from Mayer's hooks. That's what she likes to do. She throws hooks and it's eye-catching, it's flashy. There's no question for me who the actual better boxer is. I think Sandy is the better boxer, but Sandy, for me, let Michaela Mayer control a lot of the rounds, on work rate. And I felt Sandy could have done more. I wouldn't mind seeing a third fight, but again, I think it's unlikely. I think Sandy's in a tough spot now. Her record doesn't look good, but she's way better than her record suggests. And as for Mayer, it's another win, but another bunch of miles on the clock as well. I'm happy for her nonetheless, but she's in quite a lot of wars, I think, for a female. And, again, there's big fights for her out there. I don't know if we're going to see that Baumgardner rematch, but that Baumgardner fight was such a cracker all them years ago. I say all them years ago. It's got to be, at least 2, maybe 3 years ago now. And Mayer has racked up quite a lot of miles on the clock since then. I want to say off the top of my head, she's been in the Maeva Hamadouche fight since then. She was in this fight here. She was in the first Sandy Ryan fight. That's quite a lot of miles added to the clock after the Baumgardner fight. And Baumgardner, she hasn't really racked up any mileage in that time. Again, off the top of my head, I'm not going to go and check online. I can't do that. It's just I'm going off the top of my head, and I think that Mayer is racking up a lot of mileage, which is just a little bit of a concern for when she does get back in there with Baumgardner, if it's to happen, or if she was to get in there with some of the other ladies that are around the weight, like potentially someone like a Chantel Cameron or maybe a Katie Taylor. I don't know what's going to happen, but even a Clarissa Shields is a possibility if Mayer were to move up. So again, those girls there, I think, they're going to be hard fights for her, when she gets in them fights, which I think will happen sooner or later. So yeah, that's my only concern. I think she's just racking up a little bit too much mileage, and a lot of her fights are quite close, even though, again, the scorecards didn't suggest that here. I think it was another close fight. Moving on then, moving to the final fight to mention at the Texas Theater in Nashville, Tennessee. It was supposed to feature Oliver McCall. His fight ended up falling through, thank God. But also on the card, the final fight to mention is friend of the show, Craig Parker, moving to 20-0 with 20 KOs. A second round TKO for him against Philip Penson, who's now 8-4 with 3 draws. That means that Craig Parker has still knocked out all of his 20 opponents within 2 rounds. All the very best to him. That then brings the review part to a close. It's now time to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former British Super-Welterweight champion. It is, of course, Mr. Troy Williamson. Troy, welcome back on the show, my friend.
Yes, thanks for having me, mate. Thank you for having me.
It's always my pleasure, Troy. Great to have you back on again. It's been a while. We last spoke back in August of 2023. At the time, you'd just beaten Ramiro Blanco. Since then, obviously 2 fights, 2 losses. It might be a silly question, but how have things been outside of the ring?
Frustrating. Obviously coming off 2 losses, I've moved up a weight, so I feel revitalised, but I've not had the opportunity. Like I said, coming off 2 losses, it's been hard to get matched. Nobody wants to take a fight with me because they all know that now I'm at 160, I'm going to be a handful. But obviously I've got nothing to give to them. I've got nothing on the line. I don't hold nothing, so I understand that. But at the same time, it is frustrating because I know how good I am and how forceful I'm going to be at 160, and it's just a shame that nobody wants to fight. But yeah, that's it, really, mate.
And Troy, what was the issue with 154? Was it just depleting you making the weight?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming where I eventually moved up. A long time coming. I should have. It's easy saying it, and obviously then doing it, but I should have really moved up after the Mason Carbide fight. That's when I started to struggle. But because I kept on making the weight, I stayed at the weight. And the opportunities were getting offered, so I just stayed around at the weight too long, I think. But it was there's no regrets because obviously I agreed to do that weight, and like you say, I kept on making it, so there's no regrets. Just unfortunately, I should have moved up a long time ago.
No, I understand that. Before we get on to this next fight itself, obviously you're speaking to me from Las Vegas. What's it like out there? How's it been?
Yeah, it's been chilled, you know. Been chilled. I'm soaking it all up. It's my first time I've been in Las Vegas, so I'm enjoying it. Food's good, obviously for what I can eat. Weather's good. Done a little bit of training. Done a bit of sightseeing. But I'm here for business, and I'll make sure I get the job done on Saturday night because I'd love to come back out here.
It's funny because you just mentioned the food there. The last time we spoke, I remember asking you a question. I can't quite remember what the question was now, but you went on like a mini rant about, I think it was Costa Coffee changing their coffee beans. What's the coffee like over there?
I've said it for years. The coffee abroad is 10 times as nice as what it is back at home. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter where you are. It could be Spain, it could be Tenerife, Greece, Las Vegas, but the coffee abroad is a lot nicer than it is in England.
I'm happy about that. I'm happy that you're enjoying the coffee out there. Like you said, Troy, you've been calling for a fight at 160. Obviously, you've uploaded pictures. You're looking, tremendous shape. I think months ago you put some pictures on Twitter, I believe it was. You were asking for a fight at 160. You now have that. It obviously has to be said you're not in the best form, but how confident are you that you can turn things around come Saturday night against this guy?
Well, I will turn things around because I will turn things around. I know what the reason was for me not performing well, and that was basically down to the weight. Depleting myself just for a long time and absolutely killing myself. I wasn't enjoying it. But now I'm at 160. I believe this is my weight division, and the way I've been training, the way I've been sparring, take that in on Saturday night, I will have no problem getting the job done. So I'm looking forward to rolling back the years and getting a big win in good fashion. And then there's no denying me. Then I'm back on the map.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously you're boxing Jahi Tucker, who, was a top ranked prospect at one stage. They've got some brilliant prospects. He was one of the undefeated guys that they signed, but he's tasted defeat to a guy who is not on your level, to be totally honest. Have you had much time to look at tape of Tucker, or not so much, Troy?
Do you know what it is? I do look at them. I'd be lying if I said I didn't, because obviously you do obviously study your opponents, but I don't look too much into them. I've watched a couple of his fights. I've watched the one where he got beat, and I've watched more where he's won. But yeah, I believe that the guys that he's been in the ring with that aren't on my level, if I'm completely honest. Don't get me wrong, he's a good guy. He's skillful. He's very talented, but he's young. He's never done 10 rounds before. And like I said, he's never really been in with somebody like myself. So I'm a 33-year-old man. I believe I'm in my prime. He's 22-year-old. Like, when I get in there and I hit him solid, he's only a kid. So let's see how we can face it. Let's see how we can handle with my pressure. And yeah, he's in for a tough night.
And Troy, you were talking about the opportunities just weren't coming at 160 for you. I wanted to ask, where did this fight even come from? Because it did take me by surprise. You boxing in Las Vegas of all places.
Yeah, I've been calling for these big fights for many months now. Obviously, there was Nathan Healy, Tyler Denny, Aaron McKenna even being mentioned, and like, I'm at a stage in my career now where I'm coming off 2 losses. If I don't accept a big fight, then where do I go? Go and fight Journeyman on a 6 to 8 rounder. I'm past that. I don't really want to do that. I couldn't get up for that. So this fight got offered to me, and yeah, I've been calling for bigger fights in my opinion. So when this fight got offered, a chance to come to Las Vegas, and yeah, snapped it straight up.
And obviously, it's just over a year since you last boxed. Have you been training the whole entire time, Troy?
Yeah, I'm always in the gym. I'm a true professional. Always in the gym. Keep myself in decent nick. Don't really blow up out of camp. Obviously, we got told about this fight 6 weeks ago, but I was in the gym sparring. Found the guy out my gym who had a fight lined up. So I was relatively fit. So yeah, I thought they said, "Oh, can you make this weight in 6 weeks' times?" And I was like, "Yeah, no problem."
And Troy, obviously a win here is what you envision. What comes next after that? Do you go back to the domestic scene at middleweight in the UK, or do you have other plans up your sleeve?
Well, like I said, there's no once I get this win on Saturday night, there's no denying me. Then all these fighters from the UK that have basically pushed me aside, saying, "What does he bring to the table? He's coming off 2 losses." I'm coming off a big win now. I'm going to be coming off it in devastating fashion. So yeah, if this fight's there in the UK, then let's make them happen. If not, I'd love to box stateside. From what I've been told, get a big win here and then progress my career out here. So who knows? There's plenty of options.
I'm loving that for you. I cannot wait. While you were talking there, I was just trying to see if I could look at odds on the fight to see if you're the underdog or not. I can't see any odds online. Do you know if you are the underdog at all or not?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
I need to find that out. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Obviously, I don't really take much notice of the odds, but whether I'm the underdog or not, I know that I'm supremely fit. It's a new weight division. There's no excuses. I've got no niggles. I'm not cutting weight, so I'll be giving it 110% on Saturday night, and whatever happens, I know that I'll give it my all. But I do envision myself in getting a great win.
Excellent, man. Excellent. I can tell in your voice you're. I believe what you're saying. My final real question.
It is like the recent fight week. The recent fight week when I'm doing interviews, I haven't got the energy to. I haven't got the energy to talk. I never normally do any training sessions through fight week. I normally just literally focus on getting the weight down. I've done a good 6-round sharp pads yesterday and I felt great. Been doing plenty of walking around. I feel full of energy. So I feel good. I'm looking forward to getting the ball rolling again on Saturday night.
I cannot wait. I've got to say, I'm super excited about this fight. And yeah, my last real question for you, I've kind of been asking people this question every week now, but April 26th, Eubank Jr, Conor Benn, who do you have in that one?
I'm going for Eubank. Yeah, Eubank. I think Conor Benn is just a different fighter since he got caught with them pets in the system. I think all that power that he did possess is gone. And I think Eubank will beat him. I think he could get him out there later on.
Okie dokie. Yeah, just before we let you go then, Troy, if you've got any closing words, like I say, it's been a while since we had you on. I'm happy to have had you back on here. But if I've missed anything or you just want to sign out with a nice little message from Las Vegas, take it away, my friend. The floor is yours.
Yes, I would just like to thank all my sponsors that have stuck by me all the way back in October when they sponsored me for that fight in Dubai. That never happened. And all my real followers that have stuck by me. They've seen me at my lowest. They've seen me come through these tough times, these frustrating times, and these are the guys that have kept me in the gym and obviously kept them believing in me. So I owe all to them. Big thank you to my coach Craig. Stuck by me all the way from the start when I turned pro. A lot of people have said I should have moved gyms. I should move on, change trainers. I'm not learning. I'm not progressing. But trust me, I know the reason why I took them defeats. And I'm going to prove to everybody on Saturday night that I'm back, and I'm back with a bang. 160 is my weight division. And yeah, you're going to see the best of me then.
I tell you what, I really cannot wait. I really cannot wait. I'll be staying up late to watch it live, my friend. That's a promise.
Yes,
Listen,
it'll be worth it, mate. Trust me, it'll be worth it.
Cannot wait. Listen, Troy, I just want to thank you for your time as always, my friend. Best of luck Saturday, and I genuinely hope you absolutely smash it out there.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, usually the news part of the show. There's nothing to bring you, though, with the news this week. One thing I do want to mention, though, just there is that the interview with Troy Williamson that we just did there, I understand that my microphone was switched off. I was using the built-in computer mic, which is nowhere near as good quality. So I just want to apologise there for my audio during that interview. Hopefully you understood everything, but obviously I've noticed afterwards that for some reason, the first time that's ever happened, my microphone disabled itself. And I didn't realise. So apologies for that. Obviously Troy came through crystal clear, which is the main thing. But moving back on, like I say now, to the preview part where there's no news. We're going to start here tomorrow at York Hall, Bethnal Green, London. It's going to be live on DAZN, a GBM Sports card. We have over here Hughie Fury stepping in the ring, friend of the show, back in a heavyweight contest, 29-3. He steps in with Dan Garber, who's 9-4. There's a little bit of history there because Dan Garber's dad was a pro boxer who actually knocked out John Fury in the pros. So a little bit of history there between the two families. Dan Garber, like I say, 9-4, 6'5" southpaw. But yeah, his losses, he got stopped in the second round to Vidal Riley, who obviously is a cruiserweight, and he got stopped by Thomas Carty, got stopped by Moses Atalma in a round back in March of last year. So Hughie Fury is back here in a 6-rounder, just to confirm. All the best to Hughie Fury. Also on the card we have Emma Dolan, 7-0. She's back here. This one's for the British and Commonwealth Super Flyweight titles over 10-2. She steps in with Lauren Parker, who's 10-1 with a draw. Lauren Parker lost her O to Danny Hodges back in 2019. She also has a draw with Bushra El Kwasi, who it's a little bit of a... This is really like super going off subject, but Bushra El Kwasi, who she drew with, lost to Shannon Ryan, and we know that Shannon Ryan lost to Emma Dolan. So yeah, again, triangle and square and rectangle and octagon theories don't work, but it just needed to be mentioned there, I think. But anyway, I think Emma Dolan will have too much for Lauren Parker, in my opinion. And yeah, the main event, friend of the show, Bradley the Stingray, stepping in on just 3 days' notice. He's 20-1. He replaces Shakam Pitters in the main event against Daniel Blender dos Santos, 22-1. That one loss came to Joshua Buatsi back in 2021. I remember that fight. But yeah, Daniel Blender dos Santos back in action. It's for the EBU European light heavyweight title, so the proper EBU European belt. All the very best there to Bradley Ray, who, you know, I couldn't be happier for him, in all honesty. We know what happened to him out in Saudi Arabia. Had a fight date and then his fight fell through. That was on the what undercard was that? That was on the Beterbiev and Bivol 2 undercard, and he had a fight date. He was on the undercard, and obviously the fight fell through, and he was left with no Saudi payday. So I'm happy for him here that this opportunity has presented itself to him. Moving now then to the Barry's Arena. I'm sure that's not how it's said, but it's going down in Kazakhstan on ESPN Plus. I'm hoping it's going to be on Sky Sports. I'm wondering, if so, what time it will be. But we have Otabek Kolmatov, 12-1, I think, coming off that loss to Raymond Ford. Could be wrong. 12-1. He's back against Jason Manigos, who's 30-12 with 2 draws. That's over 8 rounds there at featherweight. We've got Bakadir Jalalov, 14-0 with 14 KOs, stepping in with Ihor Shevazutsky, who's 12-2. That's over 10 rounds. I don't expect it to go all 10. We also have Batizan Jukambayev, who is 23-1. He's back here in a 10-rounder. He steps in with Kane Gardner, who's 17-4. Kane Gardner of the UK. All the best to Kane Gardner, I guess, in all honesty, but he's very much up against it. As we know, you know, Jukambayev, the one loss came to Subriel Matias back in 2021. Other than that, hasn't really put a foot wrong. He's got some decent wins. And it's going to be a big ask there for Kane Gardner in Kazakhstan. Also on that card as well, it's quite a star-studded card in terms of Kazakh fighters and Uzbek fighters. We have Sultan Zorbek, 19-0, stepping in a 10-rounder with Azinga Fuzili, who's 18-2. Some people might remember Azinga Fuzili. He was able to pretty much retire Martin J. Ward from the sport. He stopped Martin J. Ward in their fight back in 2021. That one was in Las Vegas, and Martin J. Ward never boxed again. So he's a good fighter. He did lose to Kenichi Ogawa after that, but since then he's on a 3-fight win streak. He's been quite inactive though. Just the one fight in 2022, the one fight in 2023, and the one fight in 2024. But yes, it could be interesting this against Sultan Zorbek, who is the favourite, which I understand, but it could be interesting. And obviously the main event, Janibek Alim Kanuli. There's many different ways of saying his name. 16-0, defending his IBF and WBO middleweight world titles against the undefeated 14-0 Anayu Ungamis. I honestly cannot say this guy's name, man. This is a real struggle. Anayu Ungamisengu, something like that. 14-0, 9 KOs. Living in France, French national. Born in Congo. Just looking at this guy here, and I don't recognize a single name. In fact, he boxed Ishmael Sek. That's about the only name I recognize on his record. Ishmael Sek's not a great fighter. I beat him back in 2020 on points. He's never even had a 12-round fight, this guy. He's only ever had one 10-rounder and 2 8-rounders. The rest were 4s and 6s, and he's getting in with Janibek. I don't know how this guy got into a position to fight for a world title, in all honesty. This is a very easy-looking fight for Janibek. Moving now then to the Co-op Live Arena in Manchester, Lancashire, United Kingdom. I'll be coming to you here, Eddie. It's Frank Warren's first fight card on DAZN. Obviously, he's been a part of shows that have wound up on DAZN pay-per-view and stuff when they've had the big shows like the Beterbiev Bivol and things like that. But this is his first exclusive Queensbury card on DAZN since their broadcast deal. And let's touch on the undercard. We have the pro debut of Delicious Ori. He's in a 4-rounder here against Milos Veletic, who's 3-7. We've got Mark Chamberlain returning to the ring, 16-1, back in an 8-rounder against Miguel Scaringi, who's 8-4. We've got Royston Barney Smith, 13-0, under the tutelage of Ben Davison, 18-16. With a draw is the opponent, Cesar Paredes. That's an 8-rounder there at super featherweight. They like throwing Royston in with these South American fighters. I don't understand why. It seems like he's beating a Lopez and a Garcia and a Paredes in this case here almost every fight. We also have an interesting heavyweight dust-up between David Adelaide, 13-1, and Jamie TKV, 8-1. That one for the vacant British heavyweight title. I like that there. Both guys have only got the one loss. David Adelaide's loss was to Fabio Wardley. No shame in that. Jamie TKV, his loss was to that Brazilian guy. I can't remember the guy's name now, but a big punching Brazilian. I think that one was at York Hall. Anyway, that doesn't really matter, but there seems to be a little bit of needle there, and I think it's a good fight between two good heavyweights, and I think this one for a British title is pretty much as good as it was going to get at heavyweight for the British title, so I like this fight a lot. Also on the card we have the undefeated Jack Rafferty, 25-0, the man with the most wins, or the best win streak right now in British boxing without suffering a loss or a draw, 25-0. He is back here for the Commonwealth against the undefeated 14-0 Corey O'Regan. That's over 12 rounds there. And the main event, Eddie, I'm coming to you. Joe Joyce, the Juggernaut, 16-3, fresh off his loss to Derek Chisora last year. He steps in with Filip Hrgovic, 17-1, fresh off his loss to Daniel Dubois. I'm going to let you go first, actually, here, Eddie. Yeah, it's a weird one. It's, yeah.
It is a weird one. It's interesting, but it is a weird one. Well, I think it's weird weird and interesting, both because both of them are first of all coming off of losses. Both of them also seemed like at some point that they were real, like kind of like boogeymen. You know what I mean? So I guess we're kind of getting them on the way down, which is obviously not the best way to, to get a fight, but it has potential to be a really interesting fight. Hrgovic is obviously busy and, has some explosive ability there. He throws, like I said, a lot of punches. If I had seen, Joe Joyce before, seen him before, and in separate fights, obviously, and I would immediately pick, and I'm not saying this to kind of slight Joe Joyce, but I would have immediately picked Filip Hrgovic, especially if, say, Joe Joyce didn't stop the guy. And even if he did, I would just have to, I would just be thinking, I don't know. And it's like I said, there's no slight to Joe Joyce. He's done great things, even with what he has. He just doesn't look, and I've said this before, he just doesn't look like a guy that would be elite. You know what I mean? He's not fast, and that's an understatement. He's a slower, more plodding type guy, and he must have George Foreman-like heavy hands because how he stops guys, I just don't understand it. It looks like the punches he lands, from what I've seen in the past. I mean, I could be obviously I'm wrong. It just doesn't look like they're delivered with that much power, and it's because of the way he delivers. He's not, like I said, he's not a fast guy. But over the years, I've seen him, and I've seen him beat guys. I've seen him stop like Dubois, and I've seen him, beat he beat Joe Parker. I think he stopped Joe Parker, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Am I wrong in that, Joe?
No, he did stop him before he got beat twice by Zhang.
Right. So it always was such a surprise to me to see how powerful he must be. You know what I mean? Because it just doesn't look it. It's like, even with George Foreman in the past, God rest his soul, we talked about him a little bit last week. You could see the force and the strength and the power. And even though he wasn't super fast, it was the weight behind his punches, and he did have a bit of a quick twitch even with that, to where you can tell that thudding power that came from George seemed more menacing than what we see from Joe. And it just surprises me. But now that I know him and I've seen him and he's done well over the years, and except for the recent losing streak that he's on, but it just kind of, I would have never believed he would have gotten this far, but he has. So, and like I said, having the information that I have about him now, from him, now I understand, like, I guess to a degree, where he can be effective and how he can be effective, because aesthetically, I just can't see it, even after the success he's had. So I'm looking at that, and now I'm seeing, him going on this, kind of downswing and on a streak of, losing streak. And it's just like things are, like I said, on the downswing for him. I don't want to say that it kind of proved my point, because I wasn't trying to say, I never want to see somebody lose or not make it if they possibly can. You know what I mean? I just wasn't a fan of the style. And I mean, I don't know if, it's caught up with him, you know what I mean? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe he's not punching like he was before, or maybe just guys have kind of figured it out. You know what I mean? It wasn't very many guys, only two guys that that beat him. But, I would have, like, I seen Dillian White stop Chisora. And at the rate that Joe Joyce was going, I think I would have looked at Joe Joyce as a bigger, more threatening, opponent than even Dillian White at that time. So it just kind of, I'm still just kind of, processing that. But if I had to pick, if I was forced to pick a guy in this fight, and I've seen Filip Hrgović fight, Chili Zhang, and who was I can't remember who the last loss he had was with Filip Hrgović.
His only loss.
His only loss was to was Dubois, and of course, we know triangle theories don't work, but I still, even now, and especially the way Joe Joyce has looked recently, I would go Hrgović. You know what I mean? But most people will say, "Oh, well, Dubois beat Hrgović, and Joe Joyce beat Dubois. Why would you not pick Joe Joyce?" And I'm like, we already know that. Like I said, triangle theories don't work, and just seeing the recent form of Joe Joyce and his recent success, even though it was two good fighters, really good fighters at the top of their game, it's just hard for me not to see what I see. And, I'm going to go Hrgović because I just think that Joe Joyce is a little bit too available to be hit. He's right there, and he tries to, outfight you, overcome that, and it worked for a while. But I just, as you get older and as you take more punches and as you become, an older man, these things don't work. So unless he's figured out something different and he start working on boxing a little bit better and an alternate method, for defense, it's hard for me to see that, Joe Joyce come out on top now. That doesn't mean he can't. And, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are probably favoring Joe, but yeah, I would go Hrgović, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Hrgović is the betting favourite, which I'm not too surprised about. I do feel like with Joe Joyce, it really comes down to what does he have left. And, based off that last fight against Chisora, it didn't look like he had a lot left. He doesn't appear to be living the life, and I do feel like this is, very much a last chance saloon for Joe Joyce. So I don't pay too much attention to photos during camp and stuff like that, but I want to see Joyce a bit more slim. I think he just comes in way, way, way too heavy. Obviously, we saw him last time, the last 2 times, the last 3 times actually, we've seen him weighing over 280 pounds. That's 3 fights in a row where he's been upwards of 280. The first Zhang fight, he weighed 256. So basically, he pretty much put on 30 pounds for the rematch with Zhang. Got stopped in 3 rounds. He looked awful against Cash Ali, where he weighed 286, and didn't look very good against Derek Chisora, especially when he was knocked down in the 9th round. And he was 281 in that one. So I don't want to see him at that weight, but I wouldn't be surprised if he is at that weight again. I just don't understand. It's like I want to run inside his gym and scream at him and say, lose some weight. What are his team telling him? I don't understand it. It's clear to see he's too heavy. He's too slow. You can't have a slow fighter like you alluded to, Eddie, packing on extra weight, making him even slower. It's just not working for him. How many times does he need to attempt it? It's been 3 fights in a row. He hasn't looked good. He's lost 2 of them. He beat Cash Ali, like I say, and he looked dreadful that fight against Cash Ali. I was there watching ringside in Birmingham. So based off of all of that, it would lead you to believe that Hrgović might be able to fiddle his way to... he's a big puncher himself. Will he get the stoppage? That would be quite sad to see Joyce get stopped to Hrgović, because it wouldn't be in the same fashion as Zhang, I don't think. With Zhang, it was like his eye got busted up the first fight. The second fight, he got completely flattened. I don't think Hrgović has got that Zhang power. So I don't think he'll get stopped like that. I think he'll get stopped from too many clean punches. That's what I think. I think it'll be like a TKO, referee waving it off. But then there's the angle, you know, that Joyce has showed a good chin in the past, and maybe referees will be even more lenient with him and give him more of a chance than they should, possibly. But then at the same time, has Zhang cracked that chin? He was down against Chisora. There's that to look at. Chisora is not a puncher like Hrgović. Hrgović is a bigger puncher than Chisora. There's a lot of ways to actually slice this or dice this one up. But none of them look good for Joe Joyce, particularly if he's going to still be at that 280 odd pounds weight. I don't want to see that. So yeah, I think he needs to lose a bit of weight and and go back to that relentless style. If he can actually push Hrgović back in this fight, we've seen what happened when Daniel Dubois started doing that against Hrgović. Hrgović had a good start in that fight against Dubois, and then, to be honest with you, you know, I think his eye got cut and he swallowed it a little bit. You know, he actually kind of showed that there's a question mark with his heart, I think, and I don't like to say that too often, but I feel like Joe Joyce, if he can push him back and bully him a little bit, we might see Hrgović crumble. So again, I'd love to see Joyce win. Of course, I want to see Joyce win, but I'm not very confident, and I wouldn't want to back him with any money at all. I wouldn't want to back him. But my hunch would be that it probably doesn't go the distance, just because both men are really big punchers, and you know, Joyce has been stopped in 2 of his 3, so again, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him get TKO'd with a referee stopping it. And as for Filip Hrgović, like I say, he was stopped by Daniel Dubois. I feel like if things started getting rough for him, he might look to find a way out. So I just don't see this one going the entire 10 rounds, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. Moving on. Let's move on. We don't want to be here all day talking about that one. We will move now to this card that goes down at the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA. It's going to be live on ESPN. It's a good card. We've got, obviously, the man that we spoke to a few moments ago, Troy Williamson, 20-3 with a draw. He's back in a 10-rounder here against Jahi Tucker, 13-1 with a draw. All the best to Troy. I tell you what, I'm not just saying it as well. He's very much got me believing in him. I just feel like I could sense that fire in his belly. I feel like he might be able to do a job on Jahi Tucker. We also have Abdullah Mason, 17-0, back in the ring against Carlos Ornelas, who's 28-4. That's a 10-rounder there. We got Lindolfo Delgado, 22-0, against Elvis Rodriguez, 17-1 with a draw. Elvis Rodriguez, almost a forgotten man, really, in the division. Very capable fighter, but doesn't quite get the credit or the mention when we're talking about some of the, you know, the big fights that can happen. He's obviously a big puncher. I think it's going to be a good test for Lindolfo, so that could be quite tasty, that one. But the main event, I mean, it can't get any tastier than this. We've got the massive punch in Richard Torres Jr., the southpaw banger. He is 12-0. He's back in a 10-rounder here against, oh my gosh, the big punch in Guido Vianello, 13-2 with a draw. You know, both guys can really, really crack. I don't think we're going to see this one go the distance either. I'd be interested to see how much you could get if you were to back the Joyce fight to not go the distance, and then this fight to not go the distance as well. It could be good odds. But yeah, I think we're going to see a stoppage here for one of the guys. It's just a question of who it will be. Richard Torres, I feel, hasn't really been hit on the chin himself yet. It'll be interesting because I think he will have his chin checked in this fight. And obviously Guido Vianello, who's 6'6" to Richard Torres is 6'2". So there's a 4-inch height advantage there for Vianello. We've seen more from Vianello because he's been much tougher. So we've seen him in with Curtis Harper. We've seen, well, they both boxed Curtis Harper. We've seen him in with Jonathan Rice, where you know, he was upset and he was cut on his eye. You know, in that fight there. We've seen him in with Effie Ajagba, which I thought was a really good fight, close fight as well. That one could have gone either way. It was a split decision for a Jagbar, and Vianello showed a really, really good chin in that fight. That's what I think is going to be interesting. He showed a good chin. He took some big shots from Efe Jagbar, and I don't think we're going to see Richard Torres walk through him. So again, I feel like Richard Torres is going to, we're going to find out more about Richard Torres than we are about Vianello here. And Vianello last time out as well, I've almost forgotten, man. He boxed Arslanbek Makhmudov and was able to stop him. That was a fantastic win. He did that as well in Quebec City, Canada, the backyard, the new backyard of Makhmudov. That was a really impressive win. I almost forgot about that. This is a big step up for Richard Torres Jr. But I tell you what, I love this fight. I love this fight. When you see a really intriguing heavyweight fight, that is like the best thing in boxing for me. I know that, there's many great fights that can be made down at the weights. Like, obviously, I remember looking forward to Spence and Crawford for so long, because that's two really good fighters at welterweight. Two, top level guys. I was looking forward to it for ages, both undefeated, all the rest of it. But I get extremely excited when I see two heavyweights that can really bang, getting in with each other in what appears to be a genuine 50-50. So this is nowhere near that level, but it makes me almost as excited, Eddie.
You heard me when you told me that it was they made it. I'm like, wow, that's a hell of a fight for him at this stage in his career. I mean, it's a dangerous fight. So they must really believe in him to the degree that he can really do some serious damage as a contender, because this is closer to contender status than it is to prospect. Fighting a fight like this, it's like you're really challenging your guy to see if he can go to the next level, because I believe that this starts to hit, that upper echelon tier of the heavyweight division. And this is his first real serious test. You know what I mean? To see. Now, I'm not saying he didn't have the tougher fight. I mean, tough fights on the way, a couple here, a little touch there. But this one right here will tell you a lot about Richard Torres. You know what I mean? He's been able to overwhelm the majority of the guys he's been in the ring with. He's, basically proven that, he's the goods to a degree, in overmatched fights where he's a bit too good for the guys that he's fighting. But now we're in a situation where he's truly got to step up and see what his level really is. And I like what I see from him. He's busy. He's tough. He throws a lot of punches. He's got good speed and explosive power and a good motor. You know what I mean? He's got all those things. But let's see if he could put it all together in a real pressure situation with a real top level. I don't want to say top level like he's, elite to that degree, but he has the ability to be. And he's like faced much better competition and did well against the competition for the most part. So this one is a real true test. I'm really looking forward to this one. I would be really upset if I missed it. So yeah. Can't wait till this one comes on. I'm going to definitely be looking for it.
And then to wrap things up, we're going down under. Sunday, the 6th of April, we have at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre in New South Wales, Australia, we have Return to the Ring for Tim Tszyu. 24-2, coming off 2 losses in a row. He's back in a 10-rounder here. He looked awful last time against Bakram Murtazaliev. I've just remembered that because I was quite confident when I saw this fight get made here, and I was thinking, yeah, Tim Tszyu's going to win that one easy. But I forgot just how bad he looked against Murtazaliev. He kept going down off the same shot, didn't he? He just didn't know how to block it. I think it was a left hook. Anyway, gets in with Joey Spencer, who's 19-1. The one loss came to Jesus Ramos back in 2023. Since then, he's back with 3 wins in a row. He's not a bad fighter by any means, Joe Spencer, but I don't think he's on the level of Tszyu. It's just a case of, again, what Tszyu has left, because you know, the loss against Fundora was what it was. I think the cut definitely played a factor there, but the way he got wiped out by Murtazaliev 6 months ago was just, really shocking, and it had me a little bit worried, actually, wondering what he's going to look like when he next gets in the ring. So we're going to have to wait and see. But yeah, you'd still have to favour Tim Tszyu. He's a big favourite. But anyway, that brings the preview part to a close. In part one, we did the review part. Then we welcomed our special guest. Once again, sorry about my audio during that one. In part two, there was no news, but we did bring you the preview part of the show. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 493 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive shout out to this week's special guest, the former British Super-Welterweight champion, Mr. Troy Williamson. All the very best to him on the weekend in Las Vegas. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. That is about everything now from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we'll see you all again same time next week.